Yeah, the way to get enlightened for sure is, I think, do Zazen. That's what Dogen Zenji said. Zazen is enlightenment. And he meant it. The other stuff we do, we have a lot of bells and whistles, which are helpful. I don't mean to be disparaging, are very helpful. But Zazen, to me, like I said yesterday, is the core of Zen practice. So happy to see you all doing Zazen. So yesterday I was talking about looking at relationship a little differently, at least from the way I've looked at it, kind of looking at relationship or the need for relationship and all relationship with people, or maybe animals too, but looking at relationship as a kind of a problem for being a serious Zen practitioner. Whatever serious Zen practitioner means. But it's hard to do a session a month and sit mornings and evenings and have a social life, have a family, have a partner, have people in our life. So I think I kind of thought about relationship as a problem for Zen practice. And then just reading, it just becomes obvious to me that that's really what Zen practice is about. It's relationship. Because why do we want to get enlightened? So we can have a good life with everything that is our life, which is relationship. And the realization of the Buddha is the realization that all beings are one. So it's a realization about relationship. And that's what I talked about last time. I was being reminded by that guy from San Francisco whose name is Norm Fisher, that the koans are pretty much about relationship, always teacher and student. I'd say 90% are student and teacher. And the transmission, which is also a big part of our practice, is the transmission from teacher to student. And we say, there is no transmission because as you are is awakened. But even so, that recognition by the teacher, you have my mind. That's what Buddha said to Mahakashapa. And it wasn't like an exam. If you pass the SATs, it was Buddha held up a flower and Mahakashapa smiled. And Buddha said, you have my mind. So you are the second ancestor. And I forgot. And then I said, no, I forgot to say that there's also a number of koans about several people connecting with each other in a Zen way. So one notably is Oh, I didn't write down. I think I have it here. This is from the Blue Cliff Record, case 78. In ancient times, there were 16 bodhisattvas who at the monk's bath time, following the rule, filed in to bathe. Suddenly, they experienced realization through the touch of the water. You Zen worthies, how will you understand their saying? Experiencing the subtle and clear touch, we have achieved the status of sons of Buddha, of siblings of Buddha. You will be able to attain to this only after 7 times piercing and 8 times breaking through. There's so much in this koan. But for me, the major is, it may be the only koan that talks about a group of people enlightening together, realizing together. So you have teacher student, but this is 16 people at the same time woke up. Woke up to what? That's your question. What is it? What is it? What is true nature? What is dropped off body and mind? What is we're all one? We say that, but what is it? How to directly experience that? But anyway, what stands out is they did it at the same time. And that's something we're talking about these days and have been talking about for quite a while, is this collective awakening, which the first I heard about that was from Werner Erhard, the S trainer, who's kind of out of respect right now, but I got a lot from, I participated quite a bit in the S trainings. But later on, after I had done it, in S, you get it. You get it or do you not get it? And part of the problems with S was if you didn't get it, you were shamed. So I pretended that I got it. And if you're codependent, of course you pretend that you got it. So you'll be just like everybody else. And I don't know, maybe a couple of those 16 bodhisattvas were pretending, because everybody else was, wow, wow. Like here we have the green thing when the sun goes down. It's not that much. But anyway, lots of people pretend to see it. Anyway, oh, I got off track. But Werner Erhard was really talking about individually get it. Get what? I'm an asshole was how he put it. See into my greed, anger, ignorance. See the harm I create for myself and others due to my greed, anger, ignorance. That's one thing that is about enlightenment. And the other is just Jiju Zanmai Samadhi, which is self-fulfilled, joyous samadhi, the joy of our true self, of our life as it is, when we stop being an asshole. And so that's the point here that I'm talking about. Collective awakening. And Werner Erhard started talking about collective awakening. He's the first person I saw who really talked about it a long time ago, that it's individual waking up, teacher student waking up together. But what about everybody waking up? How about that? Collective awakening. What would that be? So these 16 bodhisattvas, and it says they filed into the bath. When I was at Zuyoji, the monastery in Japan, the men all essentially sat in a hot tub every night. It was cold. It was November. It was seriously cold there. But one way they keep warm was to have this hot bath every night, and you shower first. They didn't have one for women. It was just Enkyo and me. So we got to share the vice abbot's bathtub. He had this huge bathtub, and he got it first, but he did shower first. And then Enkyo and I took turns who got the second hand and third hand water. But it felt great. It was hot. It was really hot, and it was so cold there, and it warmed you up for quite a while, so you could go to sleep. So that's a thing in monasteries. This is in China, I think, that this case comes from. I don't think they did this in India, but anyway, they took some, I don't know, they had the hot bath, but they had some kind of bath. It might have been the Ganges. I don't know. But anyway, they filed following the rule, following the orders, following the rules, following what we're supposed to do. Filed into the bath. And that's kind of that isn't kind of, in the monasteries, the rules are very strict. Everything counted for, every moment you're doing something. And like when the bell rings to end work, like I don't know how you were doing with your work time, but if you're pulling a weed, you finish pulling it out, right? That's what we do. But even like they said, if you're sewing and there's one stitch left, put it down. Sound of the bell, put it down. So part of that monastic practice was religiously following the rules. Stepped into the bath. Suddenly they experienced realization through the touch of the water. So what did they experience? In the midst of this rigid, regulated environment, experience complete freedom, and they experience no separation with themselves and others. When they woke up, and it admonishes us, you will be able to attain to this only after 7 times piercing and 8 times breaking through. So that's our practice, isn't it? I wanted to talk about this movie. Sorry, spoiler alert. I'm sorry, I still have to talk about it. There's this Italian movie called Still Time, which really, I'm not going to spoil much. It's a pretty simple movie. It's just based on one premise, which is this guy who's just talking about following the rules. He's a workaholic. and he's striving to, this is the asshole part. The other thing is he's an asshole. It's filled with greed, anger, and ignorance. Greedy about getting ahead in his job. And he gets married. That's where it starts. He's married. It's his birthday. And his wife is just acting crazy. She lets him sleep in. And he's like, but I have to go to work. You let me sleep in. And she like wants to have sex right then, but it's morning. And she's silly. She wears his fancy dress and she's dancing around. She's just adorable. But he's like, what are you doing? I have to go to work. Well, it's your birthday. So then the next time he wakes up, it's a year has passed. It's his birthday again. He's missed a whole year. And now she's pregnant and can't remember why he's mad at her then. He's confused. Last time I saw you, I was mad at you for being so silly. And now what has happened? So anyway, the premise is he only wakes up from his life on his birthday, which makes kind of sense to me. Our birthday is a day of self-reflection, maybe for some of us, time we look back on our life. Yeah, he's still super wrapped up in his wife is silly. She paints. She's a painter. She does children's books. And his daughter is extremely irritating. And he won't take care of the baby. That's her job. But there's a little thing in the back of his mind each time we see him, each birthday, like there's something not quite right here. And as it goes along, he begins to, his wife leaves him, but each of this he's seeing, he's only aware one day out of the year. And when he wakes up, he's like, why did I divorce you? I really love you. I want you. I love my daughter. I want to spend time with my daughter. And then the next year, it's even worse. He's got a fancy car and a new girlfriend. But there's this, but I really love you. I really love my daughter. So anyway, to me, it reminded me of our practice and just this point that about 7 times piercing and 8 times breaking through. And I think that was about how many years the movie goes on, about 7 years, that 7 times he sees, I really love my wife. I really want to spend time with my daughter. And yet he goes back into greed, anger, ignorance. He disappears into delusion. And then, it's predictable how it ends. And also they quoted the Dalai Lama in it, which just proves that it was a Buddhist movie. Let's see, the quote from the Dalai Lama, I think, was, there are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day to love, believe, do, and mostly live. So over and over again, we wake up and we see what's important. We see our true self. And then this is where I'm talking about a relationship. And what is important is our connection with each other. So we wake up to. That includes nature, includes But one thing I noticed living here, I like to be alone. But I go for a walk because the dogs. But if I'm feeling kind of down, if I'm just, I don't know, in a little bit of a funk or something, seeing one of my neighbors and just stopping and talking for 5 minutes is so cheering, refreshing, joyful. And we talk about the weather. And that's what made me thought, well, there's something about connecting to people, and not even, people who I think of as super good friends and family or Sangha members, people who practice, just connecting to people when it's like that, open, without judgment. It's just really wonderful, really joyful. So that's what I've been saying. This connection is awakening, and that so switching that from relationships stand in the way of practice to the way to awakening is through relationship. And could be teacher student, could be Dharma brothers and sisters, but could also be anyone, everyone, if we just practice opening up to each other. So when we say wake, woke, in terms of, now are you woke or not? It's really what it's talking about, not discriminating with each other, judging. And, that's basic Buddhism. It isn't something recently invented. But it's a practice too, to notice when I bump into someone, what my discrimination is, my judgment, how the power stuff starts going on. Either I'm inserting, you should know I'm more powerful than you, or I know you're so much more powerful. So that's my thing these days. And like I said, Choa says, I keep saying we're gonna present the Sangha Sutra, and then we don't. But we've really been working on it since 1982, working on how to be together as a community. And what are the guidelines for how to do that? And I think the underlying guideline is to practice love and compassion towards each other. And of course, from one hand, it's just love. And on the other hand, there's the relative, and there are rules. So I like this. Actually, just talking about one of the 5 ranks that it talks about following the rule of Buddha, and then turning our head towards something magical. So following the rule of Buddha, that's what we do. We come to session, we follow what you're supposed to do in session. We follow the rules in the Sangha Sutra and community. But we always wake up to that magical, shiny, what to call it? Oneness doesn't quite touch it. Love, the love. So don't get lost. Don't get lost in the rules or the form, or especially don't get lost in your ideas, my ideas. And then practicing how to open up more and more with each other. And yesterday I was talking about that guy was saying that's what happens with the relationship. We kind of fall in love, and I mean with anybody, not just about sex. We fall in love with someone, and it's so wonderful and magical, and then their stuff starts coming up, and my stuff starts coming up, and then we start going, oh no, I really hate this person because they, whatever, wear short skirts, whatever. I was talking to somebody about this guy, one of you, I think, who I admire so much, but he's got the worst comb over in the world. And when I first met him, I was like, I'm never going to be friends with this guy because of his comb over. How to work through that. And a lot of that work is about projection and our stuff, our childhood stuff, all these patterns that we have established that are so firmly entrenched in us. And the Sangha Sutra talks about that a little bit, but what we really say, and I'm just seeing this more and more, is how important it is to work with a therapist as well as doing Zen practice. Kogyo said that very well to me the other day. She said, everyone who sits, and what I call sessing, I call that extreme Zen practice. Anyone who sits like that many hours a day, stuff is going to come up. You're going to bump into stuff that you very carefully put in a box long ago. It's going to start poking its head up. That's the power of Zazen. It can cut through patterns from thousands of years. And that's a place where Kokyo said, I don't know how to work with that. That's not something I have skills for. And it's a little scary to try to pretend like I know how to do therapy. So that's where it really is good to also have a relationship with a therapist. And you know what? It's not that expensive. You can find nowadays, there's stuff online, it's all over the place. There's books, it's all over the place. So I do really I totally encourage you to continue to practice. It's the best thing there is. And to practice with each other, to just jump in that pool together, and to spend time working on the patterns that keep us from connecting with each other. So I always say, I don't know if we do it, but after all this time, you build up a lot of samadhi, and that's our joriki, build up a lot of joriki, and that's the stuff that gives us the energy to break through. So don't waste it daydreaming about what you're going to eat when you get home. How do I know you might be doing that? Because that's what I daydream about. Stay with it. Stay with it. keep going back to the breath. And if it's harder because it's towards the end and we're thinking about who we're going to call and the housework that needs to be done, just go back to the breath, stay with it. Because when it's hard is the best part. That's what Showa said. The dedication, working hard. And the working hard is just going back to the breath, back to the breath, getting out of our head, getting out of our delusions and staying with it. So I encourage you to do that. And as always, thank you so much for your practice. It may seem like a small thing to you, or whatever shifted may seem like a small thing, but it's huge. And it affects everything, the shifts that you're making. The rooster just crowed in agreement with me. So take care and keep on going.